anything you can build that's repeatable, do it. I don't care if it means you stop taking clients for 2 weeks because you have to focus on this. Build your processes in your systems. I have templates in ClickUp that we use for like our funnel projects. We have templates for like, here's our proposal. We have everything that can be templated, and it's finally starting to come together and make my life easier. If I had done that at the start, I wouldn't have had to go back and forth so many times.
Hey guys, it is the DM Happy Hour podcast. Usually we have our co-host here, but it's just me today. Dre is just taking a little break from things. But we have a special guest today. The special guest is Crystal Volinchak. Did I say it right? Volinchak. My bad. Crystal Volinchak. She is really special. Special because I actually worked with her at the Shark Group with Daymond John. I was the marketing manager. And Crystal was my assigned virtual assistant, essentially. Crystal now works as the digital marketing manager, but through her agency. She actually owns an agency. So she went from virtual assistant all the way to managing, pretty, I would say like 6-figure agency. Can I say that?
Mm-hmm.
Six-figure agency with her husband, which is really awesome. So I thought it'd be awesome to get her on the podcast. She was also recently featured in Daymond John's recent book, Powershift, which is also really cool.
It is really cool.
Yeah. So Crystal, introduce yourself in a way better way in which I
I don't know if I can do that.
I think you can. I think a lot of people can introduce better than me.
You did a great job. Yeah, I'm Crystal. I own CNV Creative along with my husband, Nick, and we are a digital marketing agency, but really focusing on what I like to call fractional CMO or outsourced CMO, where, we're either coming in and taking over your strategy and kind of directing the team that our clients have, or if they don't have a team, we have a team of 7 now who can implement and manage all the projects. A mom of 1, been working remotely way before COVID.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's helped us get through this period and actually probably more than doubled our revenue during COVID. I think that's kind of normal for marketing, right? Like everyone kind of needed to go digital.
Yeah, I definitely saw a huge increase during COVID. It's almost, you like feel guilty about it, but it's just like, hey man, we're winning,
Yeah. No, I don't think I've ever felt guilty about it.
Oh, I kind of wrestled with that, but
like, I don't think we're taking advantage of people. I think there are people who are less fortunate and have, maybe come into a situation where their job is not exactly relevant anymore. And that is always sad, but that's normal. Right?
Yeah.
So it's so normal. And
I agree.
Cyclical.
Tell me more about what I love. Recently we spoke because one, you introduced me to my assistant, to Loren. She's amazing. Shout out to Loren. But you introduced me to the concept, and I was charging initially for consulting before, but you introduced me to the concept of charging as a fractional CMO. How did you go about doing that?
There's some things that just kind of happen, right? And I don't really know how to explain fractional CMO. I was probably listening to a podcast and someone mentioned fractional CMO, and me being so inquisitive all the time, I was like, what the heck is that? I want to know what that is. Mm-hmm. And then when Nick and I really sat down and looked at like our relationship with our clients, because most of what we were doing was building funnels or fixing funnels that just weren't converting, because there's a lot of people out there building landing pages, calling them funnels, that spiel.
Yeah, you know me.
Yeah. When we sat down and looked at like how we were actually working with our clients, not only were we not charging enough, like actually losing money if you count our hours,
mm-hmm.
we were going so far above like just digital marketing implementation, and we were constantly doing a mixture of like business consulting and marketing consulting and then actually implementation. And then we were just kind of like, it makes sense to try to position ourselves so that we can take advantage of that expertise that we both have from our past lives, mm-hmm. and stop selling ourselves short and really just go for it. So we've got 3 big, what I like to call CMO clients, and we handle all of their marketing, all of it. And then we still take on like the funnels, kind of upsell people, you want to build those relationships still. So we take on funnels. I do all the automation stuff still that we always did when we worked together.
Mm-hmm.
But it all kinds of ties in back to Like just my mindset of the reason I hate organic social media, or at least paying people to do organic social media, is just like there's not a lot of data in that. And I'm so data driven that it's hard for me to like, I see the value in organic social media, but with lead gen and funnels, I want to be able to like actually see, and same with ads, like actually see what's happening with everything that I'm running.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all of that just tied into this fractional CMO. And
Yeah.
COVID really, COVID, what was the first thing people fire is their marketing department. So we were definitely scared at first. But then you saw more and more people like, okay, well, I don't want to pay for an office. I don't want to pay for benefits or whatever else comes with having an employee. So actually outsourcing marketing is kind of still on the rise.
Yeah. I think you mentioned like organic social media. I want to touch on that really quickly. I think, as you know, I manage advertising. I'm an advertiser, but really like the secret sauce as to how I manage my clients and even like, and more the consulting aspect of things. I'm really a business consultant and I use the filter of Facebook ads, like I'm obviously in the ads manager account, but I'm taking what I'm seeing in the data within the ads manager account and applying it to the business as a whole, and just finding gaps into the entire funnel, as we call it, right?
Right.
And assessing and problem solving. And I think that's marketers today. Like if you are still like within just one skill set of like, I just do email or I just do social media, I think you're going to be up, because nowadays, like a marketer is really just the ultimate problem solver. I go in there, I see a problem with the website, it's broken, we got to fix it. What's going on here, things like that. But I think that where people make the mistake is that they focus either one or the other. There's a big issue with people focusing on top of funnel initiatives, right? Organic is really important, but it means nothing if you can't tie it into a conversion goal, right? Bottom of the funnel is really important. Advertising, I think, is really important. It doesn't apply to all businesses, but say like maybe SEO is extremely important, right? But it means nothing if you have no like brand awareness or if you're not working to build a brand. Like you need the full funnel experience. Like I have mixed feelings about the word funnel because people don't exactly know what it means. It's just like essentially like a user experience, like from start to finish, right?
I think that's the key, right? Like
yeah,
a lot of marketers or people just getting started, and like you have to start somewhere. So I'm not like dogging on people, but a lot of marketers are really just like, they're so siloed that they're not really taking into consideration the whole marketing journey.
Yep.
And I think that's like the simplest way to wrap up what I was trying to say is like we were dealing with the whole marketing journey and solving all these problems and wanting to make sure that we could do that for more people was our goal. But,
and that's what most people need help with. Like, how do I tie it all together? And then coupling that, like, I think the strong basis of what I do, and this is like a large portion of what I learned from you, Crystal, actually. Like, we learned a lot from each other, but I learned this especially from you, is like project management. Sometimes people, it's one thing that you know what you can do strategically, right? High level, but then like, how do you bring it into fruition? And you create smart goals and you make sure the project moves along. And it's just like, if you want really strong impact and real results, it takes time. And so it's like, you need to be measured with that time, and you need to kind of tell the client from end to end, this is what you do, and even help them delegate. I think that's where we can charge the most as marketers, and we can, we provide the most value, I think, coupled with our unique skill set. Cause you're right. Everyone starts as a specialist, or it's like, I think I like to refer to it as like the T-shaped marketer, right? Like you're really, you have one grounding, one anchoring skill set, and then you kind of branch off on the top. Like, a little bit about email. I know a little bit about SEO. I know a little bit of everything, but my real expertise is in advertising and understanding these platforms on a really deep level, and understanding even like algorithms and machine learning. So I think I saw the same rise in you, and I want to take a second and take a step back to talk about those good old days where we were on Zoom and just shitting on people. But you were you were really like my right hand person that helped me to most things in that department, and to see your rise. And my goal, I think I told you this, like, I was just like, dude, I kind of want you to take over this when I leave, you know?
That's
And
true. You did say that. I forgot about that.
yeah, I was like, you should take over this when I leave. Like, this is all for the taking. And it's so awesome. Right before, I don't know if I was recording them, but you told me like you took over. Like, that's what you're doing right now. That you're holding the whole entire marketing department, and it makes my heart sing to see your rise, man. What was it like working with me? Let everyone know.
Well, I think the one thing I think the one thing I've always said about you is that you're more of a mentor and a guide. And I think in maybe marketing in a lot of industries, like there's a lot of competition. And I never felt like that was your MO. It was like, I want to bring people along. I want to bring people along with me. I want to empower you to do more. And I want to teach you more of what I know. Like, I remember you giving me access to courses that you had and just trying to empower me to do more, that, you know, to strengthen my skill set. And I think that's something I've always like admired about you. And I think it's like perfectly aligned with what you're doing now with like your coaching and things. That's just perfectly fits your personality.
Thanks.
You talked about project management.
I was so horrible at it. But
I'm
a beast now.
Yeah, I'm still like, I realize the importance of it, right? And I've always kind of been that person to lay out those processes. Like, I'm very process driven, but I can still guarantee you, every time we have a problem with a client or like we hit a roadblock, I can go back and I can say, it's the project management. It's this piece that's not moving things along. So I think that's what's really hard about being a marketer, is like, you've got to have so many different skill sets.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But that's why it's so easy for us to transition into entrepreneurship, because like it's crazy how like my coaching and consulting business, like so coaching is more of like working with marketers, right? It kind of scaled, but then it's like at the same time I noticed that even the other side of things, like the agency, I never want to be necessarily an agency that runs and has like 20 different clients plus. I really want to keep it small and boutique, so I have that high touch, high impact. That's really important for me. Obviously, it's also kind of nicer because I get to charge more. It's hard to find that kind of clientele as well, but it's a lot of branding. It's a lot of putting out content out there, and it's been super great for me. Like the types of clients that I've had the opportunity to work with, even just having Daymond John under my name, that alone has a lot of weight. So, but I've noticed like they both rise, and I find myself like the mentorship and like the voice of me, like, okay, you got to do like that same voice of like teaching. It's the same kind of voice that I have with my client, like my on the advertising end. I'm teaching them basically the process. I'm teaching them a lot of times how to be a good client. How this works, you know. I
think a lot of advertisers like to keep things more close to the chest because they're afraid that if they empower their clients too much, they won't need them anymore. And I think that's just a bad way to build relationships, you know. I think that maybe comes from some like lack of confidence or imposter syndrome, like you maybe feel like you really shouldn't be there, but I think that's a big deal.
A lot of clients get like burned. Like agencies don't even share their data. I think that's crazy. That's crazy.
Everything I'm doing is for you, but it's yours. Like I don't feel the need to hold on to any of that. And in fact, if you come back 3 months after our contract and ask me for it, maybe 3 months is a little short, but 6-9 months, I've probably cleaned up my systems and I've handed everything to you. And if you're not storing it, like I'm not either, because it's yours. Right. So we work, usually when I work with a client, we work within their own drive and their own Dropbox, and like, so that everything we're doing is theirs, no matter if we're here or not.
Building the systems for them is really important. Like
one thing you touched on was like, you know, being a boutique agency and being able to charge enough to do that and be sustainable. And I think that's the other thing that you've always been helpful for me. Like every time I have a problem with this, I come to you, is just knowing your value and understanding what you can charge. And
I'm so glad that you've always taken that route, because it's so easy, especially in the funnel building space, to stay funnel building, But I think it's important that we educate our customers because they might be attracted to that word, but you need to break down what that really means. We're talking about your entire digital ecosystem, not just advertising.
Right.
Yeah. And then if you break that down, like that could be a huge scope. And I think that's where a lot of marketers kind of get screwed up. Like it's different things. It's like, it's building out your landing page, which can be built in a funnel builder, but that's your landing page, right? Then setting up the traffic accordingly. Then even setting up like automated systems with your email, right? Like these are all separate things that you can charge for, or you could package it up together, but just make sure you're pricing it accordingly. And I think you did an amazing job at that, better than I could have, honestly. Like that. I think like what was cool with you is like I would give you one thing and you'd run 1,000,000 miles with it. I was just like, wow. It inspired me, and I was like, I need to get my shit together.
I think that's like, it's a positive and a negative in some ways, right? That's something that is ingrained in me to always kind of like almost go above and beyond. And it's actually why I'm in Powershift, right? Like my story in Powershift is about building that relationship and going above and beyond to prove to people that I'm here for a reason and I'm worth it, and I'm building these positive relationships. But it's also what causes my burnout, right? It's also what causes scope creep because I want to help clients and I want to go above and beyond. So
yeah,
I think for me, there's some positives, and I'm starting to realize like these are the things that really are draining to me, and it's hard for me to stop helping, stop doing more.
I think I'm at a point similarly, whereas I always had that in mind, even though like, I think it's important to have the boundary in spoken boundary in your contracts and saying it with a client, right? This is what the scope of work is, but then making sure that when you do go above and beyond, the client is aware. And I've had instances where, just the client is aware and then wants more. And, like I think we all have, and I think it's like one of those rite of passage things. It's just is what it is. And I think that we have different stages. Like I think I see like productivity as seasons. Like, in the winter we chill, in the summer we're more outdoors and things like that. So there are times where I think I don't think it's a negative thing to work 10 to 15 hours a day, some seasons, as long as you rest in the others. And it's just like the nature of owning your own business is the nature of sometimes just being a marketer and staying up to date with things, so I have extreme chill times, but I have also extreme like where I am glued to a computer more than I'd like to say. And it's not healthy, but it's also like it's the sacrifice that you have to make, and it's not forever. It's also temporary because
what do they say? Business owners are basically like, you're doing things now that other people won't do, so that in the future, you're building something that's more sustainable.
Yep. But that's what we're doing too. Like I'm at a point where I just hired a media buyer to help me so that I can onboard new clients on the on the agency side of things. I don't know if I'd like to call it agency, but I guess it is technically.
It is. Yeah. I mean, I know it's like a boutique agency, and I think that transition from freelancer to agency.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know what? I don't have experience with a lot of big agencies. I never worked for an agency. I didn't ever really I never really hired a big agency. So I don't have those negative connotations that I know exist. I don't have that mindset. I know that my clients want more access to me. So like you said before, that means, okay, then I'm a boutique agency. And if you want more access, I mean, that there's a cost that comes with that.
Yeah.
And knowing that value and that worth is important.
Yeah. And what's great is like, I think you've done a really great job at like upselling your existing clients and growing with them. Cause that's what I do. Like I scale within my existing clientele. Like my clientele, I do such a great job that they make so much more money. It's a longer play though, but it's a stronger, like the fact that I've had my clients 3+ years means that it's a lot harder to fire me, and not even in a shady kind of way that like, oh, I developed, like I stole or so. Whatever. They have access to everything. It's the relationship that we built, and no one can do it. No one understands their business to the extent that I understand it. No one can do things the way that I can do it because I'm also understand their team on a different level. I can work with them on a different level. It's just like that secret sauce, like the energy that you bring into the room. And that's it's a hard thing to teach, but it's more of like what you mentioned before, like a mindset, which I think that you've always had times a million, to the point where I'm just like, I need to take notes.
I think
because you
starting
also
out as a
managed a
VA,
family.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's really what did it for me, right? Like starting out as a VA was not really I don't want to say like a ploy, but like I knew I was more than a VA. I knew that that was like a step down for me,
Yeah.
but it was a way to get experience, get into doors with people like Daymond John,
Yep.
and start building my own business, because that was the first point of building my own business. I had like 5 or 6 VA clients and I was just freelancing for all of them. I mean, I think I actually started with like Beachbody, Shakeology, MLM. That was my first experience. We were just talking about that the other day. And
An MLM
sometimes
is
I'm
a
like,
rite of passage. It's a rite of
yeah,
passage for every marketer.
side note, now that I'm doing like funnels and stuff, I'm like, can I go back to an MLM and just run funnels and really not do all the work that's involved in that? And then Nick like looks at me and he's like, do you think there's 40 hours in a day? Because like clearly you don't have time for that. But
Yeah, what are you
want to do an
thinking?
experiment, but I'm not going to.
But that's like that right there is what I know that makes like the best marketers, the best I think entrepreneurs, is like that innate curiosity, like let's try this out and see. I kind of like I admittedly, well, more than I even like to admit, I spend a lot of time just like I'm just curious to test this out and like just want to, I just want to see how this will work. But that's what makes us it's like balancing the left and the right brain. Like you mentioned, being a marketer is so hard because we need to have a lot of skill sets, specifically digital ones, I think. But I think it's more of like people are more right brain versus left brain. Like, our old boss was very, I think the more rigid side of the brain.
Analytical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To the point where it's just like, okay, that's obviously not productive, to the point where that person was doing that. But, like that's why he hired people like us to kind of balance him out. But us on our own, we have to act as that like strong right side, the strong left side, the strong creative side. And then like, like when we're thinking of like this is how I analyze it, like top of funnel initiatives, like we need that. But we also need to bring it down to earth with bottom of the funnel initiatives and with data, and understand what's moving the needle. Like attribution is it's probably the biggest issue that I run with all my clients. I think it's an issue that literally
It's
every
hard to
business
do.
owner. Yeah, because it's like we need to understand what's moving the needle, and then it's just like
Otherwise, you're just throwing money at the wall. Like
yeah.
that's what I try to explain to my clients. Like you're throwing something at the wall and you're seeing if it sticks. Okay, great, it sticks, but like what pot did it stick from? You have no idea. Yeah.
So you can't scale what you don't know. And I think that's where successful companies are super successful, because they know where they're scaling. Like they
So
know.
how do you have like tools or systems that you use to track attribution? Because I think that's still like I try, me too, like I like to try different like software tools and UTM links and all that stuff, but like I haven't really found a great system for some of our bigger clients to know. And part of that too is like that multi-channel, like you're saying, like the attribution touch points. Are you doing beginning, end, middle? Like there's so many things. So
I think it's like it's a hard balance with understanding each and every platform's attribution model, right? Because Google Analytics is a different attribution model than, say, like whatever you program Google Ads to be. Maybe it's data driven, maybe you have time decay set up. So it's like understanding the overall, like you just need to understand your playing field. You need to understand that unique attribution setup. And then with that, like the bad answer is like take things with a grain of salt. Like that's the bad answer. But what we really should be doing is to find, like I've been looking at different solutions. I'm always looking for different solutions. Like right now I'm just like going ham on UTM parameters and additional codes, additional snippets of code on like certain landing pages. Like for example, I'm hitting like a huge roadblock with this one client who sells ayahuasca trips. And it's actually really crazy and cool. And we ran a couple of campaigns and it's booming. But we can't figure out exactly where it's coming from because they use a separate third-party platform.
That's the
So I
scary
have
part.
to reverse engineer a lot of things. So I got to figure out, okay, so within this platform, I got to talk to their support. How do other people, how do business owners develop, understand that attribution? What kind of additional snippet of code? What custom, like, do we have to build something custom, like some kind of custom coding system to bring that filter through into analytics, Google Analytics, you know, what does that look like? And I'm not well versed on the technical aspect of things. Like I can direct it, but I don't know what that entails. So I have to reverse engineer a lot of things and just understand the limitations of certain platforms that the client is using. I've looked into Wicked reports a lot. Yeah. I looked into that for the Shark Group as well.
I'm using Segmetrics for one client and I like it, but I feel like there's still something missing. They use Infusionsoft too, and I like that's a huge headache. But
this client uses Infusionsoft, so we're transitioning to active campaigns because they don't need that robust. They don't have a big list like that, so it's just like you don't need all of that.
But I do think like the one thing I really like too, I don't know if you've used this before, is Funnelytics. Yeah. And even though like the free plan, you can map out like all your funnels and stuff, and that's great. But once you get into a pro plan, it's like you can create UTM links and you can really track and see where your traffic is coming from and how everything's systeming through. But like you just hit on, there's so much technical ability that needs to go into all of that tracking. And even Google Analytics is definitely the one thing I was like, Cynthia, this is all you, because
I was going to say like the best tool is Google Analytics right now because you can customize a lot there. And that's why I don't like platforms like Funnelytics, just because Google Analytics can do that times 10 just by adding UTM parameters to your unique links, you know, and it can bring in all of that traffic. You just have to understand like the attribution model that you're using within Google Analytics. I think, you know, it's like a never ending battle. And I think you have to find custom solutions for each and every company, because each and every company or brand or business that you're working with or client, they all have a unique user journey. Maybe it's not just one touch point. Like with the ayahuasca trip, I have a really big hunch. Like the easiest thing that we can do right now is on the form that they fill out, ask them what did they find out about us. But that right there in itself is last click, right? I'm pretty sure there was multiple touch points. Right. So even like going as far as like understanding first party data and like actually like running a lot of surveys is really important. Because that, I think, we can understand on a deeper level, like why is someone doing what and what are they clicking on? Like we get it straight from the source. And I think we would neglect that a lot too. Like I even go very anal on like, okay, we got to get this UTM parameters on this, and this needs to be feeding into Google Analytics, and I need to export all that data and put it into a really neat report on Data Studio or whatever. But sometimes we just need to run a lot of user client surveys. And I think that's important. Hotjar and Just for a lot of my clients for that. Exit surveys, things like that. So that's what we're doing with this the ayahuasca trip guy. It's just like, how can we update because for someone to take a trip that's like between $2,000 and $5,000, they put a lot of thought into it. So it's obviously multiple touch points. A lot of trust needs to be built there. So surveys.
This is exactly why. This is like you're doing a great job of demonstrating why you're not a media buyer.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm trying
a lot of media buyers will just be like, okay, well, I'm running your ads and this is where it's coming from, and that's great. And I'm not. That's okay too. Like it's okay to just specialize in media buyer, but you're not. Like you're trying to figure out their customer journey. And you're trying to figure out like what they want to see, and it will help with the media buying, but it's more of the big picture. So.
Yeah. I think that's like, it's something I try to convey to my prospects a lot, and a lot of them get it, but there are some people that don't. And I'm just like, all right, then we're not a good fit. I think it's important to understand, like some people don't get it. And then that means they're just not a good fit. Doesn't mean you have to sell them. They're just not a good fit. But but I think that like if most media buyers just kind of didn't just silo themselves in the media buy, their job would be so much more impactful. And that's why I can charge the rates that I charge, because I'm trying to gather data that's going to not just increase your revenue right now in the immediate, in the short term, but long term, year over year. Like, this is invaluable data that we're gathering, and I'm literally building out custom solutions for you. And I've met people that build out like custom CRMs that charge like $30K for just like a custom CRM. My friend did that on Airtable and charged this company like $30K. I was like, holy shit.
That sounds awful. It's something I never want to do.
No, but it was really
No,
beneficial
yeah, like
for the client.
the actual like having that is great, but like thinking about doing
building
it and all the technical stuff, I'm like, no, I'm good.
No, with Airtable, it's actually not that bad. Like, it's not that, like, he's not like a coder or anything.
Yeah.
Like, I think he just knows like basic HTML, CSS like us, and JavaScript.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I'm getting like so in the weeds right now. This is how nerdy I can get.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's all right.
What would you say, like, in managing everything, with the agency?
It's been hard.
Yeah.
Like,
family.
Yeah, I think it's important to like.
I think I've always asked you that. Like, how do you
dispel the myth that entrepreneurship is like, well, because you know my background, but like, let's tell people too. Like, I came from the small business administration, so I came from the entrepreneurship side of things, and I
didn't know that, actually.
Okay, so I was an office manager at one of like my local SBA offices, and then I did consulting. So I came from this theory of how do we help people start a business that's not going to waste their money, that's not going to bankrupt them, that's viable, where a lot of our other branches really were just like, oh, here's your LLC form, like, go out and file it. But my office was like, no, I'm not giving you your LLC form until I know that this business is not just going to tank, right? So I've always been taught that mindset of like doing your due diligence and like figuring it out first, because a lot of people came in our doors were like, well, I don't want to report to the man anymore. I only want to work on my terms, and I only want to, like, they think it's the easy way out for some reason. Yeah. And I think in some ways it's easier because you're doing what you want to do and you're helping like grow your own brand instead of growing someone else's brand. But it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I didn't actually, even when I was in that world, I never wanted to be a business owner. I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to work a 9 to 5. I want to be done when I'm done, and I want to go home and leave work at work. Yeah. But when I had my son, he was 6 weeks early. And so that was like scary. He was in the NICU for 2 weeks. And then I got really attached. You become a mother and things change. I always thought that I was going to be one of those people that wanted to go back to work. Like, I was actually in training, and like my director of the office there I worked was helping me like train to take over her position when she retired in a few years. So that was my goal, was to be director of that regional SBA branch and help people start their businesses. So I think my background really transitions well to a marketer who's helping people grow their businesses, but with the realization that not everyone should be doing it. But when I had my son, I was like, I don't want to go back to work. I guess had more maternal instincts than I thought I was going to have, and I really wanted to stay home. And that's when I started looking for like remote work. Because the other caveat to that is that when I was supposed to go back to work at the university, I was told that I was going to be allowed to work like 3 days from home and 2 days in the office. So work flex. 5 days before I was supposed to go back to work, they called me and they were like, yeah, we can't let you work flex because other people will ask for it. So you have to come back. I was like, literally 5 days. You're not giving me any time to find childcare. You're not giving me any time to like wrap my brain around this. You. Yeah. Like, I'm going to come back because I believe in taking profitable steps.
Yeah.
So I came back and I did what I needed to do. But in the meantime, I was looking for remote work and other things. And I think it was like a job board, like Flex Jobs or something like that, where I found some of the virtual assistant gigs. And I was like, I could do that. I'm assistant now, an office manager now. Like, I could totally do that. And that's how I got started. I also have a big problem with that industry. But, I think they, take advantage of people. I was supposed to be a virtual assistant for the Shark Group, but really ended up being like a marketing associate, right? Yeah. But I was making like $18 an hour for a place that's like in New York City. Like, they just, those virtual assistant places now, they're placing social media specialists, and they're placing like, I don't want to crap on them because that is how I got my start. I'm grateful for that. But when I started my agency, that was the one thing Nick and I talked about. Like, we want to pay people fair prices, and we don't want to call them virtual assistants just because they're not working in an office. That's not realistic.
I think
and
that's
then they're taking 50%. They're taking 50% of the contract. So like if the employer's paying $45, they're taking 50% of it just to place people. And then they have a buyout fee too.
Yeah, so. I remember when Ted bought you out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that, yeah, that's a whole industry that needs help. But I think it all starts with the grunt work of empowering people to understand, like, you can do this on your own without an agency.
Yeah.
That's why I think the way that I empower marketers is by telling them to build your own personal brand, do the grunt work from the ground up. Don't rely on Upwork. Don't rely on Fiverr. It's okay to get your start there. It's okay to, build, like, just same thing with you. If you started off as a virtual assistant using these platforms, like, that's okay to get a jump start. But build something bigger, build a foundation, a strong foundation, have a website up, understand, have clarity as to what exactly you're serving or providing and who you're serving. And so I think people get really tripped up with that, and it's really hard. It's really hard.
I even still, like your ideal client and there's a lot of things that go into that.
It changes. And in the beginning, you're getting a lot of noise from here, just left and right. And like the common advice I hear all the time is niching. And I think niching makes sense when you've hit a certain level, right? But sometimes people don't realize just like the services that you provide is niche enough.
Yeah,
you don't need to niche. I think it's a bunch of bullshit right now because I like niched into e-commerce and I'm just like, wait, I want to work with way more other people. So
I wish I would have had that advice a year ago, right?
Yeah,
because
grain of salt with that niching.
Everyone's like, and I do believe like there's riches and niches, like that's fine. But when you're getting started, you can't just, you think you're going to charge 10K for one project that you have no experience, but like that, just because you're niching down doesn't mean you're going to generate those rates. And it's going to be harder to find clients, right? Because if you're niching down, your client pool becomes smaller. So
I see a lot of like business coaches and things like that give that advice way too early on. I'm just like, I think that really caps people so early. Like,
it does.
Have more clarity as to what it is that you provide and how you provide it. Because sometimes, like, we talk about niching, but that can be a niche, like just how you provide advertising, just how you provide becoming a fractional CMO, like you can say that you're a marketing assistant, or you could say that you're something even bigger, like as a fractional CMO, you actually handle strategy. And then you also have the capability to execute with a team.
Right. We don't have a niche, but I have a certain brand of people that I tend to attract because of my past clients, but our niche is that, like, yes, we're fractional CMO, but our roots are in conversions. And so our route is not getting traffic to the top of the funnel. Like a lot of people can do that. Our niche is the fact that we have experience building funnels from A to Z, including the email funnel, because that's really where the bread and butter is, right? Like it's the follow-up. So I think that's kind of like, maybe that's not our niche, maybe it's our like unique, qualifier, but
yeah, your process is super unique in how you deliver it. I don't know many agencies that have that unique, just that unique process or unique solution. It's your unique solution, right?
Yeah.
So I think if we start focusing more on like the problems that we solve and who, like, or go a step further and understand what kind of problems your consumers have or your ideal clientele have, and then figure out a specific solution, boom, that's your quote unquote niche. I think like it's important to like, what's great with niching, what it does is that it gives you clarity. And so you need that clarity in order to hone in, but you don't necessarily.
And your copy converts better, and like you could do, less ads or whatever, but I think a lot of people just getting started aren't running ads anyway, right? That a lot of marketers who are just getting started, they're not running ads. So like, I don't know.
Where do you guys
there's a time and place for it.
I agree. Where do you guys get like the most, I guess, do you work with, like, what are your ideal clientele as of now?
Most of our clients are in the like high level coaching, but like not maybe not coaching, but high level consulting, and digital products. So like for Daymond John, like we don't touch FUBU and we don't touch like, you know, his speaking. He has his own team for that, but his digital courses and ebooks and things like that, we handle all of that. Our other client, Ideal Practices, is they're like a high level 70, 80K consultant for people, for associate dentists who want to open their own practice. So it's like there's more application based. We really don't do very much with e-commerce,
Right.
like I know you do. So it's really more of the service based industry, and it just happens to be right now a lot of like consulting, you know, consulting clients.
I think the thing for me is just like I'm really good at direct to consumer. That's, you
And
know,
we don't do a lot of direct to consumer.
yeah, I'm good at direct to consumer. B2B is not where, well, Daymond is all direct to consumer.
Yeah.
It's all
It just
D2C.
like, but it's also like,
Or selling is all D2C.
it is, but it's those people are trying to become businesses. So while it is D2C, it's got this little overlap of like entrepreneurship. So really like I guess most of my big clients focus on how to help people become entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And that's really my
really
entire
D2C.
history.
Yeah. I think that's purely D2C though. Like B2B
Yeah.
different, like B2B
Yeah.
when you're targeting like when your ideal client is like Pepsi, you know, like
Yeah. No, I don't do
that,
any of that.
yeah, that
Like the
to me is
corporate B2B, I don't do any of
yeah,
that. No.
because I can't do copy. I can't do the voice. And I think there's like a huge uproar right now for B2B marketers to be more, what do they call it? D to H, direct to human, because you're speaking to human. And I'm just like, all right, I just don't want to touch it. Like I'll stick
No,
in.
you're right.
Yeah.
A lot of what we do, so I'll take that statement back. We are D2C, but a lot of like my niche is for clients who are helping people become entrepreneurs or business owners or better business owners. Built a website last year that was e-commerce, but like it was just a website deal. Like it wasn't any of the marketing, and we don't really do those too much anymore, but
yeah, those are a pain in the ass.
that's what I started with, right? So
yeah.
Yeah.
How is it like working with your husband?
It has its
days. Good old Nick.
Yeah. No, it has its days, but like I feel really lucky. We get to pretty much be on the same path. We're on the same like trajectory. We get to spend time as a family together whenever we want, but it's also hard because you're working with someone and we butt heads a lot. And our relationship is very different from like our personal life to our work life. I am different. I am a different person between my personal life and my work life. So like in my work life, I'm kind of more like take charge, get shit done, like figure shit out. And in my home life, I'm more of like, I don't want to say submissive, but I'm more of like, do whatever you want to do. Like, I don't really care. I don't have a lot of like preferences, but that's also probably because I'm burnt out from work, right? I'm burnt out from making all the decisions. So at the end of the day, I don't want to make anymore.
I tell my boyfriend, like, after 7 p.m., I don't make decisions. Like,
No.
you can be the
My
man.
brain is fried.
I'm not doing,
right?
I'm not making any decisions. He'll be like, what do you want to watch on Netflix? I'm like, you know the rule.
Yeah.
I don't make decisions.
Especially being a mom, like the hardest part I found is it's not like the day-to-day stuff. It's the mental load. It's I've got to remember what needs packed and pack bags. And I got to remember like diaper change every 2 hours, food every, like I don't remember to feed myself. So remember to feeding another human being is like, that's mental work. So, you know, sometimes when I push back on the work stuff, he doesn't really know how to handle it. And so it kind of causes some confrontation. So we almost have to learn a totally separate relationship and then also learn how to shut it off. Like, so it's very difficult, but it's also very rewarding. We have like 7 contractors now, so we're helping people grow their own business and we're helping people like put food on their table, and that's really awesome.
Yeah, that really is.
Nick's always been the visionary behind this and the driver, because like I said, I didn't want to start a business. This was my means to be with Primo more. I wouldn't change it now. Now I'm like, I love it. But Nick's always been the guy that's like, or the kid that was like selling pencils at school and selling, you know, trading wrestling figures and like entrepreneurship from the day he was born. And I could care less. It was a means to an end for me. But that experience that I got from the SBA has pushed me along every step of the way. The best thing I can say about people who are trying to work with their spouse is to really try to separate the like division of responsibilities. Once we did that, things got a lot easier. So Nick's operations, he handles all the payroll. If we need a new employee, he's putting out, you know, all the job application stuff. If we figure out that project management is going south, like it's his job to figure out the systems and processes. And I actually just fired him from project management because it wasn't going very well. So, but we had someone on our team who I had someone on my team who was kind of a generalist. And I found areas that she was great in, and then I would get frustrated because I had her doing social media and I was like, I need to basically rework all of this, and I would get frustrated. And it took about 6 months for me to be like, she's a project manager. She is the one that's going to motivate the team, set all the process in place, and make sure everything's getting done. So right now she's still doing a little implementation while we like phase her up, but it's just in the past month made our lives totally different. So I tried to force Nick into a position that I didn't want to do but needed done, because I'm the marketer, I'm the creative one, right? Nick's more of like the business consulting, but not so much marketing. So all the client work was falling on my shoulders. All of the like client calls, weekly reports, all of it was falling on my shoulders. And I was like, I can't do that in project management. Like, you're going to have to step up and do something. And he did, but I was trying to force him into a role that really didn't suit him, and our business suffered from it. So that's what's hard. It is. And that's what's hard about being in like, it's hard enough when you have a business and you're like, man, this person is not really working out in this position. Like, this is my husband, and we're trying to figure out how we can run this thing together. And that's what's hard, because he's also like, he's day trading and swing trading on the stock market, and he's doing
God, I feel so bad for him right now.
Yeah, it's been a rough week.
It's the worst.
He's doing this thing called Top Shots, which is like this online trading card thing.
Yeah.
So he's making like a lot more money doing those things to do. All of that goes over my head. So we have our own skills and strengths, and figuring out how to balance the business and childcare between all of it. I mean, I think about the time Primo turned 1, I was like, okay, we're done. I'm getting a divorce. Like, I've done all the business development. I've done all the client work and all the childcare. Like, something has to change or I'm done. And I think the first year of having a baby is hard enough. Trying to start a business when you're doing that is like, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, I've always like took deep breaths for you whenever I was hearing about like stuff happening with whatever. I was like, how do you do that? Oh my God.
Well, I don't anymore, right? So we had to change our lives, and from the outside looking in, our lives are not super typical. So Nick does all the dishes and the laundry and like a lot of the household stuff. We have a babysitter comes in now from like 9 to 2 Monday through Friday, so that those are my like focused work hours. And then, you know, I love my husband, but it was like Primo was a year and I was the only one that had ever given him a bath. Like, talking like all of the childcare stuff. So now Primo and Nick get there, like, he showers him, he cooks him breakfast. Like, he's really stepped up to take over that part of our lives, which was a hard mental shift for him too, because he's always wanted to run the business, and there's this like outside pressure to be the man of the house. And he still is, by all means, but men don't cook and clean and men don't raise the kids. Like, that's a mold we're trying to break for our son. I don't want him to know those things. Those things aren't real.
I agree. I think that's like, I'm not married, but I've been in a relationship for like 10 years.
Might as well be. Yeah,
might as well be. But we've also had like similar spats, and I'm so glad that we worked it out before we ever, like it's only recently that we were like, okay, I think by the time, like in 3 years, I think we should start planning for kids, like things like that. But I'm so glad that we sort of shit out now, because a lot of that came into play. Like, okay, this is what you do. Like, you do laundry because I'm not good at it. I'm not good at picking up stuff. I'm really like the big thinker. I'm the type of person that gets shit done.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm really good at delegating. And another skill set that you mentioned is like having the patience to sit back and watch, just like understand, even on your dime, like it's on my dime, right? Where you suck and where you're great at. And I have also made the mistake of saying like, this is your role. And I realize I have to like shift it accordingly to them. Like it's the same thing with Loren. Like I kind of try to make her into an account manager. And I'm like, she shines like with project management. She shines with organizational things. And that's perfect because I don't. I need someone like that. And then the same thing with like the new media buyer that I just hired. He's more on the creative side of things, which I need another me, right? But then when it comes to like even longer form content for video editing, I have another editor for that. Like he's great at like coming up with a master plan on how we're going to repurpose content. And he's great at coming up with ad creatives and then pairing that off, even strategizing with Facebook ads. Like his strength is Facebook advertising, not so much Google. So it's like, you really need to understand those strengths and like not fault them for it. Like there are certain ways, and like not everyone's like me. I noticed that I'm the type of person that I am really like, I'm good with numbers, and then I'm also good at creative. Like not everyone's like me.
Me too. Like when you're talking about left brain, right brain, I do both. Right. So, and I think maybe that's what makes the good, like the top strategy, like the top of the strategy, and then finding people to help you, like you're saying, delegate.
Yeah.
One thing that we've done is like at first we hired specialists because we needed a lot of help in little places. And now we're like, okay, but now we need generalists. Now we need specialists. So now we have somebody that does Facebook ads. I have someone that does Google ads. I have someone that, does project management. My next step, I am looking for a junior funnel designer. So I want somebody that just does that. Like, because while we're sitting here saying you have to have well-rounded skills, it's also very important to specialize like a team marketer in that one area.
Anchoring your skill sets. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
If you could give one bit of advice for someone in a similar position as you were because I know you have to head out in the span of like maybe a sentence of advice for someone that was like a virtual assistant, doing a little bit of everything, figuring it out, interested in marketing, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to do it before you have kids. But if that's not possible, it's really important to be a problem solver and be resourceful and figure out not only what the market needs, but what you need and what's going to make you happy. Because you could bust your ass to build a business, but at the end of the day, if you're not still doing something you like to do, you're going to be just so unhappy. So, I think one thing I've always been is resourceful. One thing that I look for in my people is someone that can solve problems and be resourceful, because that means I can teach you, the actual skills. Processes and systems are your best friend. Anything you can build that's repeatable, do it. I don't care if it means you stop taking clients for 2 weeks because you have to focus on this. Build your processes in your systems. I have templates in ClickUp that we use for like our funnel projects. We have templates for like, here's our proposal. We have everything that can be templated, and it's finally starting to come together and make my life easier. If I had done that at the start, I wouldn't have had to go back and forth so many times. So I think I almost got started too soon. Like I took on clients before we really had any processes in place. And then I kind of devil's advocate to myself, like you got to take profitable steps and you got to earn money and make sure you can do what you're saying you can do, but don't go too long without building those processes.
Yeah. I throw myself into it and then figure out a process to make the next time smoother. That's how I see it. Yeah. But I just wanted to say like, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. Thank you for just the awesome time that we had working with each other. I think like you saved me from so many burnouts, and I mean, I still went through one, and I'm sure you did too. And, but I felt like we forever have a bond, a trauma bond, working together.
I think of all the other places I've worked at and like, you know, people I've worked with, we're the only one that we still like, you know, keep in touch. It seems like almost once a month we're pinging each other and just keeping in touch. And yeah, I mean, I think
real and it's genuine. Like I care, you know, and I think you do, even though we like interact and like, hey, I just need this one thing. And I'm just like, yeah, sure. You know?
Yeah.
But
right.
it's like, it's there. Like,
I think we come from a place of understanding, like we're both trying to work our asses off and help other people and do this right now. And yeah, I like when I sent you Loren, Nick was like, well, she's going to steal her. And then she's not going to have any hours left for us. And I was like, well, even if she did, like, I'm doing this because I think it would be good for Cynthia and Loren. Like, they're a good fit. And if Loren decides that she wants to work 40 hours for Cynthia, that's Loren's life, and I'm happy for her. So I think those are the types of things that, you know, we built a strong foundation. We only worked together for 5 months. Is that crazy?
I know. I appreciate that so much because I tell the same thing to Loren. I'm just like, listen, if you're ever overwhelmed, like I'm going to assign work to you and I want you to take as much initiative as possible. But if you always need to take a step back, just let me know. Yeah. I, at the end of the day, care that you're happy and, you know, this is a relationships game at the end of the day.
Right.
So I appreciate you for that. And I will always do the same for you, vice versa. Yeah. I try my best to do so. But yeah, thank you so much. I know you're a busy lady.
Thank you for having me.
Wife.
I do have a call,
Badass.
But I will talk to you later.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.